There's a lot of intrigue around Ivana Trump's death and burial. Let's look into that. Welcome to Trevor's Tarot, Astrology, and Spirituality. So, Ivana Trump was born in Czechoslovakia. Some think that perhaps she was a Russian agent. There was an FBI investigation looking into that fact, as well as looking into uh, the life of her then husband at the time, Donald, uh, who currently occupies the White House. So let's start there. Was she actually a Russian agent? Like currently, like at the time of her death, was she still a Russian agent? So was Ivana Trump a Russian agent? Okay, see an image in the waters of the hammer and sickle, which is the symbol on the USSR flag. I don't know if that's meaning to apply that ended in the 80s. Let's see what the cards. Was Ivana Trump, was she still a Russian asset at the time of her death? I think so. I don't know how active she was, but I think she still had a lot of information. Yeah, some sort of message coming forward with the Knight of Pentacles. Yeah, her challenge was actually staying safe, which is a little bit ironic, but kind of on point. The Five of Swords is about being wounded in battle. And I think that's exactly what happened, but we'll look into that on the next question. Yeah, we have the Hierophant, courts, church, the Pope, governments. In the past, we had things moving quickly but downward. The wands are facing downward in this deck. So this is just the Rider Waite Tarot. And here she is, the Queen of Pentacles, holding on to the pentacle, appearing to be rather nurturing and motherly. I don't know that's actually how she was. And she got a new start with the Fool. She had everything she needed at the end of her life. The Nine of Pentacles, all her needs were met. But she did feel isolated and alone. At the time of her death, we were still kind of going through COVID, and I think she was very fearful of COVID from what I read. She was only 73 when she died. In the hopes and fears, we have the confinement. Now, this can be a self confinement. This can refer to her being confined to the apartment or the townhouse. She was very guarded about her past, though. I don't think many people knew what exactly was going on, including, I get the feeling that Donald didn't know either. We get the hanged man pausing suspension, reevaluation. This all points to things after death. And we get the Ace of Cups, surprising new beginnings. So underneath, we have the card for the thinking about the next generation, the Six of Cups, fiery messages at the Page of Wands, circles of support around money. So I do think, at least at one time, she was more of a Russian agent. But I think once you're a Russian agent, you kind of always are. Now, I know there's been a lot in this story about Donald, but we have to be very careful with news today whether it's just a misinformation or a psyop campaign. I kind of take things with a grain of salt when you hear things that just seem a little bit um, too on the nose. Okay, so let's look at how she died. So she was found by the building supervisors. They called 911. She was pronounced dead on the scene. The autopsy said that she died from a blunt force trauma to her torso from falling down a flight of stairs in her apartment or townhome or whatever it was called. Um, I'm going to point this out because I think this is relevant, but we'll get to that in a bit. So she died on July 14th, 1922. I'm sorry, 2022. Not that old. 2022. Who was mayor of New York City? Eric Adams. And who is the DOJ trying to drop charges against? Eric Adams. And what card is this underneath? The Seven of Swords, which is all about deceit, deception, trickery. Not a coincidence. So, what can you tell us about how she died? Is the story of how she died valid? Is there more to the story? So she's held up in this townhome, luxury apartment, whatever you want to call it. And people knew that because she was scared of COVID, according to one of her friends. She hadn't been leaving her apartment. What can we find out about Ivana Trump's death on July 14th, 2022? This is the Light Seers Tarot if you're interested. Something happened, right? It was a tower moment. Now, would there be a tower moment if she just fell down the steps? Some friends had said that she was concerned about her stability, but that could also just be, talking after the effect. Yeah, so the tower's crossed by the death card. This is just the universe's way of kind of telling us we're reading on the right topic. Yikes. We get the chariot card underneath. I have a feeling she knew something she wasn't supposed to reveal. Now, for entertainment purposes only, obviously, it's a tarot reading. Could be right, I could be wrong. The chariot card is a card of movement. Now, if you just think about moving people, what do we call that? I think that's what she knew about. And I think it had been going on since way back when, since the early 80s, maybe even in the 70s. In the past, we had the Ace of Pentacles, this financial new beginning. This is when she got married to Donald. Circles of support around money, but there's three people. So there's Donald, there's Ivana, and who's the other person? Three people again after her death. Circles of support and celebration, the Three of Cups. The Six of Cups This is the family card. This is, the next generation, the child becoming an adult, the puppy becoming a dog. It's the end of the life cycle, the representation of the life cycle. She's blindsided. She didn't see it coming with the Two of Swords. Yeah, there was some sort of person working against her. This is often referred to as the spy in the camp card, the Page of Swords. But whoever it was, they had to walk a tightrope. They had to be very careful. She knew who it was. She was blindsided by them, though, in the sense that she wasn't expecting it. Here she is again, the Queen of Pentacles. I don't know why that card just feels like her. We get the Queen of Swords, consistency, logic. She had a routine going on leading up to her death that was just very consistent. I imagine if we were able to go back and look, she probably went to bed at the same time, woke up at the same time, ate at the same time. Kind of was just very consistent. Didn't really leave the apartment unless she absolutely had to, or the luxury apartment, townhome, whatever we're calling it. Here's the card for the president of the United States, Donald, her ex-husband. Underneath, she couldn't keep up with what was going on, right? The Knight of Swords, the motorcycle's out of control. The guy's trying to catch up with it. He can't catch up with it. She couldn't stay ahead of the problems. And a message came from where? From probably a partnership in the past. We get the Five of Swords. This is interesting because this is my card for dementia and for entertainment purposes only. I do think there's some dementia and Donald Trump. And then we get the full card, a new beginning, and it came as a surprise, bombshells and surprises with the Page of Cups. So I don't think she just fell down the stairs. And I could be wrong. She might have. It just seems a little bit suspicious to me. So, and at the time, you might say, well, how would you cover it up if it was indeed something more violent? Well, Eric Adams was the mayor of New York. Eric Adams is basically going to get a pardon, or he's going to get the charges dropped against him. This is something I predicted months and months ago was going to happen because he's involved in a few different things with the Trump family. He used to be in law enforcement. Is it really that unthinkable that he could control the messaging there? Especially if the death was, you know, really set up to look like an accident. It probably could have gone unquestioned. And if it started to get questioned, people could be, taken care of with money or whatever. Okay. So the King of Pentacles popped up there, which is interesting. So let's just ask the question this. I don't particularly think, from my meditations and scrying incidents, that Donald was involved in her death. He might have been aware that it was going to happen, but I don't think he gave the go ahead for it. But let's just ask if someone in the Trump family was directly involved in her death. I have someone in mind, but let's just see what the cards say. So this is the Unfolding Path Tarot. I don't think I've never used this deck on this this channel or my other channel. I've had it for a while. I just hadn't gotten around to using it. It's the Trump family, anyone in the Trump family involved in her death. In the image of a portrait of her with the three children, Ivanka, Don Jr., and Eric. It's in the water. None of them look particularly happy. They don't look particularly sad either. They just look rather stoic. Yeah, we get the King of Swords. Logic, consistency, planning. This is very, very well planned out. Their challenge is the Moon card, keeping things hidden, keeping things under the surface. It's the challenge. We get the Four of Pentacles, stability. And it's also, it's like holding things tight to your vest, right? Like a really well guarded secret. Like, I don't think, well, let's just keep going. See what the cards say. We get the Queen of Pentacles in the past. This is the card for her. And it's in the past. That makes perfect sense, right? Because she has passed on. In the sky, we get the Three of Cups, circles of support and celebration. These are the three children in this instance. I don't think they were in the other reading, but in this instance, that's what they are. We get the Wheel of Fortune. The fates were turning, and the fates still are turning for somebody, whoever may or may not have been involved. And again, for entertainment purposes only, it's just a tarot reading. Get justice. Justice might be coming. We might get to know more information about this soon. I do think it'll eventually come out. Get the Eight of Wands. Once it starts to fall apart, whoever's involved, it's going to fall apart quickly. And there's not going to be much support for this person. Here we have the Queen of Cups and the hopes and fears, an emotional, kind of motherly type energy, compassion, empathy. It's in the hopes and fears, though. And the first outcome card, we get the Nine of Pentacles. This is like the card for having everything you need, the wealth card, right? It's always depicted generally with the peacock and pomegranates. I don't know if there are pomegranates in this depiction or not, but that's the typical depiction. And here's the Ten of Pentacles. This is the inheritance card. And, you know, that makes perfect sense as an outcome. I think the three kids inherited most of everything, and then a few friends also got a little bit of her estate. And then we have the Emperor, abuse of power, also the card for the presidency. It's interesting. We have the Page of Wands underneath, messages coming forward. Yeah, we have the Devil card, mis and disinformation, abuse of power, substance abuse, perhaps. And we have temperance as well. So I think the King of Pentacles, which is the card for Donald, I think he knew about it. I don't think he was directly involved. I do think one of the family members was, but he might have kind of gave the okay. Now, the report at the funeral was the one that was the most upset was Eric. And when I was meditating on this, I kind of got the feeling that he felt guilty. I don't know what he felt guilty from, but something was making him feel guilty. Let's just ask the question, for entertainment purposes only. Was Eric Trump involved in her falling down the stairs? I don't know that he was directly involved. Like, I don't think he actually did it, but he may have kind of aided and abetted Eric Trump. You might ask why. Here's the card for Donald again. So maybe it's just Donald. Maybe that's the universe's way of just saying, no, the kids weren't involved. The the challenge is the Ace of Pentacles, this new beginning, living with this new reality was going to be hard for whoever was involved. We get the Queen of Cups, empathy, emotional compassion. Yeah. We have the Empress in the past. Some sort of Russian influence is the reason why it happened. But who actually did it is a different story. We have the Four of Wands, families. Somebody in the family was something to do with Russia, but Russia's kind of controlling the family. So could, Putin give the order and they have to do it? I think so, because yeah, and we get heartache in the near future. Whoever kind of set this up that's in the family is really torn up about it. And that doesn't really fit the bill of a lot of people. Donald has no emotions. Uh, Don Jr. just seems like he's, you know, for entertainment purposes only, a drug addict. Really, he doesn't seem to empathize with anything. The only emotion I've ever seen him have is anger. Ivanka's pretty tempered, pretty even kill. Eric's the one that has the highs and lows. That's why I don't know. I'm not saying that's what happened, but we get the star card too. They wish they hadn't done it. The chariot card is why it was done, though. She had information about uh, people being moved around the world without their permission. She had information about things going on that are of a pretty twisted sense. And she's had that information from when she was young. We get ill health and the hopes and fears. There was a lot of hope that she would just pass, and she was supposedly getting frailer. But then there became this fear, this fiery new thought that, well, maybe as she gets older, she might start to talk because, people sometimes like to come clean about things before they go. Get the Eight of Pentacles. If one plan doesn't work, try another. I think they were trying to get things to work out differently. We get the Moon card again, things coming to the surface, things yet to be revealed. Yeah, the Tower underneath. They're all big energies. The Lover's card as well, unlikely partnerships. Now, I don't think any of the children were in the apartment when it happened. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that they might have helped set it up for entertainment purposes only. It just feels like the only one that's emotional that would have that Three of Swords energies, just the youngest son or her youngest son. It's the only one that feels right to me. Okay, we did get the card for Russia in the past. I have some notes over here. I'm just looking at my notes. And so when I was scrying, one thing I wrote down is, was is it possible that Putin was involved in this? And if so, why? We'll go back to this deck. So I have a video on this channel already about Putin blackmailing Donald. This could have been like not only a way to cover up information getting out, it could have been a favor for Donald too. I don't sense that though. I sense this was kind of a message. He knew about it and he knew it was coming, and he just didn't care to do anything about it. It was like kind of like, if you don't pay the ransom, we're going to do this. And he said, okay. And one of the kids, I think, I could be wrong, right? This is, touchy stuff. Is Putin somehow involved? Somehow involved in this situation? Yeah, I'm getting like a pretty clear flashing red light that says yes. This might have been something that was in the plans like 10, 15 years before it happened, to where like this was the plan to show him that they were serious about messing with him if they needed to. We get the Six of Cups, relationships, intergenerational relationships. The challenge is the fiery message, keeping it quiet. This is the blackmail. We get empathy again, the subconscious. Whoever was kind of the one that kind of called, like, knew it was going to happen. I think there might have been, I think Donald knew, but I think another person knew. I think it's Eric, but for entertainment purposes, he was pretty torn up about it, though. He was pretty empathetic. Like, he didn't want this to go down, and I think there was like some begging and some pleading, but ultimately that's was what happened. The crossroads was in the past. The decision had been made, and it was inevitable. So the question is Putin somehow behind here? Yeah, overseas influence, juggling money, overseas money, trying to hide perhaps some money laundering. Um, Perhaps that was the threat. If we'll release information about money laundering, we'll release information about the chariot card. Um, if you don't do something, and they weren't doing it, and so they said, well, this will show you we're serious. Then things started moving quickly, violently. Knight of Swords. She no longer had a purpose in Donald's life, so he didn't care. He was ready to walk away. I think that's how he feels about everyone. I don't think, this was anything special about her. I don't think he really forms emotional attachments in a healthy way. Two of Swords again, blinded decisions. She wasn't the target, right? So we get the church, the Pope, the courts, the government. The target was the government, right? That's who was they were trying to influence. They were trying to influence Donald in his government capacity. He wasn't president at the time, but I think they were kind of worried that he might not run for president, or might not stay running for president. And so this is their way of, I don't think he ever wanted to run for president again. I think a lot of that was Russian influenced. But I don't know. We get the Four of Cups being handed something you don't want, and the wheels of fate turning with the Wheel of Fortune. And the Sun card, I don't know why I pulled another card. The Sun card, full illumination. So yeah, I think Putin was involved. There's justice underneath, so it's coming. Isolation and alone again. If one plan doesn't work, try another. What was the plan all about? The plans were about deceit and deception, trickery, foolery, getting what you want without getting caught, maybe even getting what you want without your hands being on it, which sounds like, kind of what's going on now in the government is, now Donald is saying Ukraine kind of picked on Russia and that's why this war started. Well, that's not what happened. It's kind of, talking about removing Russian sanctions, things like that. Like he's being controlled by Russia. So Putin was somehow involved in the situation. So I think the next question we need to ask was, so it was reported that some people have said she was cremated and then buried in a coffin. There's no actual news source to suggest that she was cremated. So that's just based on intuitions. So let's ask that question. And then the idea is that there might be something buried in the coffin with her. That I do think is true. Whether she's cremated or not, I think is somewhat irrelevant. Um, but let's ask the question. Was she cremated? We're just gonna pull one. Yeah, so that's a yes card. Two yes cards in Russia again. So we'll just go with she was cremated. I don't think it particularly matters. Um, I don't think what was put in the coffin was big enough that it would have mattered. That's why I say I don't think it matters. So was something put in the coffin? So she was buried at the golf course in New Jersey, which is kind of highly unusual one. And the land had to be consecrated so that she could have a Catholic funeral. It wasn't like just a simple buy a burial plot and have a funeral. It was a little bit more complicated than that. So there was some effort put into it. So it feels like there should be a reason why that was. So is there something in her coffin she was buried with of significance? I think so. I don't think it's what people think, though. So some people have suggested classified documents. I don't think it's that. Some people have suggested gold, money. I don't think it's that either. I think it's more nefarious. Let's see what the cards have to say. So when I was scrying, what I got was this is Putin's sick and twisted way of forcing them to bury the dirt that they have on the Trump family with Ivana so that if they ever needed to pull it up, it's there. It's in a safe spot because you can't just like go exhume a grave. right? I think that's what it is. I think it's blackmail. Something that points out what had been done or something along those lines about money laundering, probably. So yeah, Russia definitely influenced by Russia. Whatever was buried there wasn't the things that Trump wanted to bury there. I think that's where I completely disagree with some other people. Um, and I could be wrong and they could be right. They could be wrong. I could be right. Um, but it's something Russia wanted there. It's like this kind of mind bending game of, well, we always have dirt on you and literally dirt on Ivanka or Ivana. Um, and there ain't anything you really can do about it. It's not like they can go dig up the coffin, right? They can't do that. But if the government was tipped off that, hey, this is in the coffin, the government could, right? I think that's what it's about. Yeah, it's about hiding mis and disinformation. It's about hiding things that are less than legal. It's about hiding, abuse of power. Whatever's in the coffin shows an abuse of power. It shows something that is highly illegal. Is it the most nefarious thing that they have on them? I don't think so. I don't think it's that far because I don't think they would part with that. I think it's like copies of documents that show, perhaps some illegalities around money. Yeah, we get the Seven of Swords. Thievery, trickery, deceit, deception. That's what's in there. It's something that shows those things, shows thievery, trickery, deception, and deceit. I don't think it's classified documents. I think it's more trickier than that. They were told they had to do it, and so therefore it was done. And that's already happened with the Page of Wands. The Six of Swords, they think that they're kind of okay. They don't think people are ever going to check. And that might be the case, but all it takes is a little bit of evidence to get bodies exhumed. And this is interesting. In the near term outcome, we get the Hanged Man. And this is about pausing and suspension. But in the readings I have done on my other channel about Jeffrey Epstein and Jean-Luc Brunel, you probably everybody knows Jeffrey Epstein. Jean-Luc Brunel ran a modeling agency, was arrested for similar crimes as Jeffrey Epstein. Also found unalived in the very same way in prison as Jeffrey Epstein. This card came up for both of them in this exact position when I read on them. And this is in the near future. So I think there's an ongoing threat, is what I'm saying. We get the Two of Swords. Things are still very much at a crossroads. They're still acting kind of blind. They really don't know what's going to happen. And I think that explains a lot of the irrationality. We get bombshells and surprises. I think we'll be shocked if we find out. And again, I don't think it's what other people have said it is. The Four of Cups, um, a feeling of dismay. It's about partnerships that were, and maybe partnerships that are. The Knight of Wands, positions of power, and the Tower card. Not interesting. Explosives, whatever's there, it's explosive. Personally, the feeling I get, and I don't really have anything other than to justify it, other than a feeling, is it's something that shows a bunch of criminal activity. And it's just kind of this twisted psychological thing to do to someone of, yeah, we made her disappear. And by the way, we're going to put all the dirt we have on you in with her to torture you more so that you'll obey what we want. That's what it feels like to me. So things coming to the surface, literally, things under the ground will come to the surface. That'll bring about a fiery new beginning. Um, we, we get the card for the Democrats. I don't know that that's what this is about. Um, it's more about like empathy, but for whoever the victims are in this crime, with the inheritance card, they're hoping that it doesn't come to light. They think they have enough guardrails with the Nine of Wands and strength, but they don't. It's inevitable. It's gonna come. The ship is just waiting to come. The ship is gonna come in. It's inevitable, and it's gonna bring about complete and utter downfall with the Ten of Swords. It's gonna it's gonna just totally ruin them if it comes to light. And what is going to come to light? Abuse of power, and it involves, I think, the president, for entertainment purposes only. But the cards are pretty clear. Yeah, hiding classified documents never made much sense to me. I'm not saying that that's not what it is. I'm not saying other people are wrong because everybody's just making predictions, based on their intuitions too. So, but actually having like this, it's like almost, it feels like this. It's like, okay, Donald, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, we're going to take out your ex-wife and the mother of your children. And he doesn't, so they do. And then they say, oh, by the way, Donald, since you didn't do that, we're going to put in her casket all the information that will completely destroy you. And it's like this like double way of like ultimate control. And now he's so much more irrational, so much more pro Russia than before. It to me, this is what makes things add up. So, um, yeah. Was she cremated or not? I think it's irrelevant. I don't think it matters. So I think it seemed like she was, but again, I don't think it actually matters. I don't think that's what's there. I think what's there could be put on a thumb drive. I don't think it's, anything heavy or big or bulky or anything like that. So, um, it seems to me like it'd be hard to cremate somebody without a crematory report, like some sort of evidence coming to light. And I don't know of any. If you do, please share it with me. But I know of nothing other than people reading on it, which, they can be right. I could be wrong. I'm not saying that she wasn't. I'm just saying I don't think it matters. I don't think what's in there is like of a significant volume that it would matter if there was a body in there. I think it's irrelevant. So yeah, I mean, we might I might come back to this with some more questions. I don't think we have all the answers yet, but this seems like a good stopping point for now. So thank you for watching and please subscribe.